Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Living Manna Church. Hi, guys. I'm Pastor Dave Sain, Senior Shepherd here at LMC. It's Wednesday night, which you know what that means. It's time for Bible study. Been looking forward to it all day. Hopefully you guys have had a good day out there. Kind of a cold one here in the Northeast. It's finally starting to get cold out here. It's been kind of warm. We've been enjoying the warm weather. But it is already November. Elections are done. Before you know it, people are going to be eating turkey and all sorts of other things. And so the time goes on. But we are still here hanging out, doing Bible study, learning about Father. We've got a long time until Passover comes, so we got a whole bunch of things we can talk about before we get back to the whole Passover. Let me do some just basic in-house stuff here. If this is the first time you're hanging out with us, or even if it's not, if you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button, smash that like button, share this, like us, and share it out with somebody else. If you enjoy the message, get this information out, let other people see it. We would sincerely appreciate it. Just a couple of just quick announcements, just a reminder to everybody that our Saturday services, of course, we've changed the time. It's an official change. So from now on, it will be at 10:30 a.m. We used to be at 10:45 on Shabbat, but now it'll be at 10:30. So extra 15 minutes, got to give just a few minutes earlier. Come hang out with us. We would appreciate that. So don't forget to set your clocks and be there at 10:30. We're going to be doing a little celebration. It's Sister Karen's birthday coming up this upcoming Saturday, so we're going to have a little thing for her. Of course, today is her birthday, and happy birthday to you, sweetheart. Hopefully you're listening out there. I know they're out doing some celebrating now, but I'm sure she'll check this out later. Happy birthday to her. And thank you on her behalf for everybody that sent out birthday, comments on the LMC app. And thank you so much. I know she appreciated it. She told me how much she appreciated it all day long. People were texting and calling. It was definitely a neat outpouring of love. So thank you. One more time change for this upcoming Friday. Normally our Hidden Manna, we're going to have Hidden Manna. No doubt we're going to have Hidden Manna with Brother Max. But this upcoming Friday, normally we have a 7:30 start. We're going to start at 7 o'clock, 7 p.m. Now, I'm not saying that's going to be official from now on. We'll see how that works. But at least for this upcoming Friday, we're going to be at 7 p.m. That's Eastern time, so make sure you put it in your calendar, and we'll send out a reminder to everybody, like on Thursday or even Friday during the day. But it will be at 7. So between 7 and 8 will be our Hidden Manna, and of course, the next day, of course, is going to be our Shabbat service. So with all of that, all those commercials sort of out of the way, again, good evening, everybody, and shalom to you. Thank you for hanging out with me tonight. Tonight's study is entitled, What About the Thief on the Cross? Now, actually, where this sort of comes from is we had a dear friend of LMC, part of the LMC family out there, watches a lot of our videos. The tag is Meek Urban Studio. I think they're on now. Yeah, I see Meek Urban Studio on there. Thank you so much. You sent in a couple of questions. I was thinking about them. I know I sent you back some answers, but I was thinking about them. You know what? These are probably questions some other people have too. So both last week and this week, and probably for the next couple of weeks, because they had some really good questions. I'm going to be sort of answering some of the questions that have been coming up on some of the shorts, some of the studies, some of the things that we've been doing. So we get a chance to go back a little bit. Since there's no feast days around, we can sort of kind of, go about and catch up on some other things that we haven't really talked about for a while. And so today's study, or the title for today's study, actually comes from them. Comes from Meek Urban Studios' question. They asked about the thief on the cross. What about the thief on the cross? Now, this is there's really a whole lot to this, and they asked, have I ever done a study or a message particularly on the thief on the cross? And the answer is no. I'm not particularly about the thief on the cross. Obviously, we've mentioned it many times. I think we've talked about it in Manna, just in passing. But I thought it would be good to maybe visit it tonight and sort of try to answer the question that was posed. Now, normally, when we say the thief on the cross, normally, so where we're all sort of familiar, at least I hope that we're familiar with the story, right? So Messiah gets to the cross. The whole trial was over. Everything's over. They nail him to the cross. They put the sign over him. They put the crowns on him. And of course, he's nailed with two other thieves. And the other thieves, by their own admission, should be there, whatever they did. And it had to, and you can't really say it had to be something worthy of death because we're talking about Rome, right? So did Messiah do anything worthy of death? No. But these guys say, listen, we're supposed to be here. So whatever they did, they did. One, of course, is just dead set against the master. He's like, if he could save himself, meaning if he can do these miraculous things, why not do something miraculous right now and get us all off of these crosses? But the other one has contrition. The other one is very, very repentive. The other one realizes that he's there for a reason and that the Mashiach is there out of innocence. He's done nothing to deserve this fate. And of course, he turns to the master and he says, Master, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Now, there's some language there we have to understand, because I think very often we get confused about the language and we're thinking one thing when it really means something else. And I'll try to explain that in just a couple of minutes. So he says, Master, remember me when you go into your kingdom. The Messiah's response to that has nothing to do with the kingdom. The Messiah's response to that is truly, truly, I say to you today, you will be with me in paradise. Now, there's all sorts of, back and forths as to what all of that means, and we're going to try to deal with that. And so Meek Urban Studio asked, what about that person? Because the assumption is what the master just said is you're saved, right? And I put it even in the question there, do you have a video speaking about the thief on the cross? And I put saved, because really that's sort of what everybody's mind is when you say that. And there are certainly those, I've heard this before, people that use this story to justify or to prove that works are not necessary for salvation. That is, works are not necessary to make it to the kingdom. And so we're going to take a little bit of a deep look at it as much as we can. We're limited on time, but we're gonna try to get into it as much as we can. But honestly, my first question, and that's a good question, no doubt. That's a good question. We're going to try to answer it. There's two questions really, and I doubt we're going to get to the second one. So this is just my question, right? So if I was looking at this, my question really wouldn't so much be the whole works issue. My question would be, what did he mean? Truly, truly today, you will be with me in paradise. What exactly does that mean? Now, we're gonna maybe touch on that just a little bit. I'm not going to really be able to answer it in totality. Maybe we'll make this a part 2 for next week and answer that particular aspect of it. But we're gonna try to do a little deciphering here and dissecting to try to find out really kind of what's going on here and what this is. So I want to stick with the issue of this guy obviously has no works, right? I mean, he didn't do anything. There's nothing that he can point to after his confession of faith that he can say, well, he kept the commandments, he kept the Torah. And therefore, there are certainly lots of groups, in fact, probably most of modern Christendom, that look and take this particular story and use it as a platform to say, well, there's nothing that needs to be done except to make a confession of faith. And even the way we say that, there's really no biblical basis for that formula that everybody sort of counts on today. But that aside, here are just a couple of modern religious views concerning this particular question of works, of do things need to be done after repentance, after you come to an understanding of faith. Now, the modern religious view, and by modern, I mean probably right across the board, if not 80, 90% plus of every Christian group, denomination, name, offshoot that you can think of, has this sort of a take on it. It's up here. I'm going to highlight it in just pink here so you guys can see it. The modern religious view is that faith in Messiah alone leads to salvation. And I'm using the word salvation, but we use the scriptures version all the time, and it says deliverance. Because I think there's a picture we have in our minds when we say salvation that might be a little bit skewed, I guess, by our religious concepts or what has sort of formulated over the years. But deliverance, delivered from sin, forgiven, made right, because that's really what the word means. but that faith in Messiah alone leads to salvation, that no works, meaning no religious works, no keeping of the Torah, can attain this position of being, and I put in quotes there again, saved. Now, of course, this comes right out of the Reformation, right? This is the whole anti-Catholic, the Protestant Reformation, sola de fe, faith only. It is only by faith. There's nothing that you can do. There are no works. Obviously, a big part of the whole historical background that has led us to where we are today. And it was necessary. The Reformation was necessary. It was necessary to start to get people back to read a Bible, for people to be able to at least print a Bible without getting burned at the stake or having your hands chopped off or all the other horrible things that Rome would do to you just for even trying to possess a Bible in your hand. Once it was in their hand, this is one of the first concepts that come out of the Reformation. Sola de fe, only faith, only by faith. And obviously, it's reached us here today, and you've got a vast majority of people that claim faith in the Messiah that also have this concept of the idea it's only by faith, no works. And I get that. I mean, I do. I get it. Obviously, we've been there before. And one of the cheap verses, I guess, that often gets used for this is Ephesians chapter 2, verse 8. This is one of the Reformation verses, but certainly one of the pillars that you could look at and say, well, then this is true. Here it is. It is only by faith. Ephesians chapter 2, verse 8. It says, for by favor, of course, that's the scriptures version. Look at other versions. It says, for by grace. For by favor, or the grace of L, you have been saved. Remember the PDPs, just sort of me giving you my definition, my thinking. I'm not trying to define the Greek words or the Hebrew words. I'm just giving you how I'm reading this and I'm interpreting this. You have been saved, really delivered. So for by favor, you have been saved through belief. Of course, that's the scriptures version. Most other versions would say by faith. You have been saved through belief, and that not of yourselves. You didn't do this. It is the gift of Elohim. And I put it there. I bolded it out. I guess that's green or teal or whatever color that is. It is not by works. And so, well, there it is. People would look at that and say, well, there it is. It says it's not by works. And of course, it is referring to the efforts of man to keep the Torah to be made right before Father, so that no one should boast. Okay, well, then there it is. It's all settled. It was only by faith. So what happened to the thief on the cross? That's it. That's the pattern. And all the rest of us follow that same pattern. That's a piece of the story, but it's just not the whole story. And we really ought to know or try to understand the whole story. So that's the modern. Not even just the modern, just the historical Christian view, at least from the Reformation on. That has been whatever denomination, whatever name, the historical view. Here is the Pharisaical view, or the Pharisaical Judaic view, Judaism. And the Pharisaical Judaic view is that by keeping the Torah, or works, but the definition of works in this sense is different than really what is supposed to be implied. But by works, it means, or Pharisaical Judaism means works as prescribed or instructed by the leaders of Judaism, rabbis, the religious law, and their traditions. So when they say keeping the Torah, it really implies Judaism, traditions, religious law. Very, very often sent down not by Moses, but by other rabbis. So the Pharisaical view, one more time, is that the keeping of the Torah, I'm right here, guys, you guys can follow. Excuse me. The keeping of the Torah makes one acceptable and righteous or right standing before Father for salvation. So if as a modern or from Reformation on, Christian view, if you look at what Judaism was doing, and you read it as, oh, well, that's what it means to do works, to do all these things that the Jews were doing, then yeah, I could see why you would look and you would say, oh, wait a minute, yeah, well, it's not by those things. We're not supposed to do those things. We're not supposed to keep the Torah. But that's not really what we're talking about here. We're not talking about keeping the Torah. We're talking about keeping religious dogma, religious traditions. Pieces and parts are connected to the Torah, but it's not actually the Torah. It's been added to, it's been taken away. So you've got the way most modern believers in Messiah would look at people like us when we say you need to do the works, you need to follow Abba's commandments, and they'd be like, oh wait, you mean to do what the Pharisees are doing? No. Totally the opposite. We don't mean that. That's absolutely not what we mean. And of course, this issue of the Pharisaical law and their misunderstanding of the Torah is spoken about all over the place. Here's just one from Rav Shaul, the apostle Saul. This is Romans chapter 10, verses 1 through 4. Pay real close attention to this because he's telling us what the issue of the day and the era of the day is. It says in verse 1, truly, brothers, my heart's desire and prayer to Elohim for Israel is for deliverance, salvation. We'll get into more what that is in a second. For I bear them witness that they have an ardor. Now that's the scripture's way of saying it. That's a neat word. It means a desire, a hunger for, a zeal for. They have an ardor for Elohim. So was the Judaism even of the first century, and I'm sure that all of Judaism that came after that, did they have a desire, a hunger, a zeal for Elohim? The answer is yes. But here's the issue. And I put it there in a bold color again, that green color. But not according to knowledge. What does he mean by not according to knowledge? Not according to the knowledge or the wisdom given by the Torah. What they did was not Torah. It was connected to it. It had elements of it. It was referenced, but it was not Torah. But not according to knowledge of the Torah. For not knowing the righteousness of Elohim. He's saying the leaders, the religious leaders, the Pharisaical, Sadduceical, scribal leaders of the day, they did not know what the righteousness of Elohim was, which is spoken about over and over and over again in the Torah. And seeking to establish. So if they didn't know what the Torah really says about righteousness, what did they do? Since they didn't know, they sought to establish their own righteousness by strict religious observance. Not necessarily to what Moses said, but to what the traditions of men said that Moses said. And these, again, were people who did not understand the Torah. Now, I know that's hard for us to really, soak into our minds, because the first thing that we think about as sort of modern believers today, we hear Jews, we hear rabbis, like, oh, they got to know the Torah. I mean, it's just part of their culture, it's their history. And here's Messiah saying, well, here's Saul. We'll talk about Messiah in a second. Here's Saul saying, no, we didn't. No, we had it all wrong. We thought we had a hunger for him, we had a zeal for him, but we never really understood the Torah. We didn't understand it, and because we didn't understand it, we didn't understand him. So because we didn't understand it, and people do this all the time. We do this all the time, even today. What's the old term? You fake it till you make it, right? If you don't really understand it, you wing it. You create. You don't want to look dumb in front of people, so you created this entire religion that the master calls a burden. Father's word is not a burden. The commandments, as given by the rabbis, became the burden. So it says, And seeking to establish their own righteousness through strict religious observance, the traditions of men who did not understand the Torah, they did not subject themselves to the righteousness of Elohim, because the righteousness of Elohim is always given as a gift through repentance. Always. And where do we get that from? The Torah. It's all over the Torah. It's everywhere in the Torah. Blessed is the man whose sins are forgiven by El. That's Torah. Forgiven, freely forgiven. A gift is given. This is all over the Torah. But they didn't understand it, so they sought their own way of establishing a righteousness. And they did not subject themselves to the righteousness of Elohim, the given gift through repentance. For Messiah, who is the gift of the Torah. For Messiah is the goal. Now that word goal there, now it depends on, some of the versions you read is kind of misleading. Some of the versions say Messiah is the end of the Torah. And you read that, you say, well, there it goes. It says there's no more Torah. Messiah is the end of it. Well, just you got a concordance, just look it up. The word doesn't mean end. It means purpose. It means goal. It means reason for. Right, so you're playing football. What's the purpose of football? To get into the end zone, to score the touchdown, or baseball to hit a home run, or to hit a base hit, or soccer to get a goal. That's not the end of the game. That's the purpose of the game. Messiah is the purpose or the goal of the Torah, unto righteousness, which is. And here is what salvation actually is. We're talking about it as righteousness here, but here is the real definition of salvation, because we think of salvation as, okay, I said a prayer. I said I repented, which is good. That's great. You need to repent. I said a prayer. I said I accept him as such and such, so-and-so, and now I am saved. And the concept most people have in their mind is, I'm going to spend eternity in heaven with Father and with Messiah. And beloved, that's not what it means. That's just not what it means. So definitions matter. We'll get into some of the more defined way of speaking about this, but generally what it means to be saved is to be forgiven, to be made in right standing with Father. That is salvation. To who? It comes from the Torah. It is the gift. And it is to everyone who believes. All right, so having established, I know this might be just a little bit of review for everybody, but this is important to understanding the story of the actual guy hanging on the cross, or the thief hanging on the cross next to Messiah. Here is the next slide. No, the notes, guys, are available online. You can, go to the description box below. You can download them. I think they're also on the app by now as well. So if you can't follow me on your screens there, you can print those out. So again, the modern religious view that faith in Messiah alone leads to deliverance with no works. There's no works you can do to attain it. This faith by works is there's truth in that verse, obviously in chapter 2, verse 8, but it's not the whole story, and we need to get to the whole story. Let's look at this. John chapter 5, verse 37. Here Messiah is going to say almost the same thing that we just read in Romans 10 that Saul was saying about the Pharisees, the Sadducees, Judaism of its day. And it's not just Judaism of that day, it's Judaism of today as well. In John chapter 5, verse 37, the Master says, "And the Father who sent me, he bore witness of me. You have neither heard his voice at any time nor seen his form." Now, I said this just a couple of weeks ago. I'm putting a little bit of a spin on this because most people read this and say, well, nobody's actually ever heard the voice of Elohim. And nobody's actually ever seen the form of Elohim. But that's not true. There's been multiple people that have both heard his voice and have seen his form. What he's actually saying to them, because the Master speaks very typologically in similitudes and shadows and types. What he's actually saying is, to these particular people, you've never heard his voice because they don't understand the Torah. They don't understand the word. What is Father's voice? It is the Torah. They have not heard his voice at any time. They have no understanding of it. And they have not seen his form. They don't understand the meaning. They don't understand the purpose. They don't understand the goal of the Torah. We just finished reading in Romans 10. What's the goal of the Torah? The understanding of Mashiach, the understanding of Messiah. Verse 38, he says, and you do not have his word staying in you. Don't forget who he's talking about here. He's talking about the religious leaders, same as Saul was. He's telling them, you don't have his word in you because you do not believe in him who he sent. Here's the problem. You search the scriptures. Now, by scriptures, yes, we mean the Torah, but it's really the Torah and the prophets. You search the scriptures because you think you possess, and here's the word, I put it in there as the PDP, you think you possess salvation, resurrection, to be with him eternally, everlasting life, through strict religious tradition. That's the PDP version, but I want you to get the content here. So he's saying, you're looking at the scripture, you're reading Moses, you're reading Daniel, you're reading these verses, but you are interpreting it as you will get salvation through your strict religious teachings in the scripture, just by doing these strict religious teachings. And these, PDP, the Torah, are the ones who bear witness of me, which is exactly what Saul said in Romans chapter 10, that they have a zeal, but they do not have the knowledge. They do not understand. Their eyes are not open to it. Their ears are not open to it. And if the eyes and ears are not open to it, then their hearts cannot be open to it. Here's verse 46. Now I'm skipping some verses because we've gone over these before. This should be very, very familiar to most of us. But verse 46 says, for if you believe, now I'm putting the PDP in there because if we're reading the word believe and we're thinking, well, if you have faith, that's not exactly what it means. When he says, for if you believed, he means if you understood. Because don't forget, what did Saul say? They have a zeal, but not by knowledge, not by understanding. They really don't understand. So he says, for if you believed, or if you truly understood Moses, which what did Moses write? The Torah, you would have believed or understood me, since he wrote about me. But if you do not understand, believe his writings, that is Moses' writings, how shall you understand or believe my words? So in essence, what is the master telling us? Here are the religious leaders of the day, the people in charge of everything. And he's telling them, you don't know Moses. You don't understand Moses. You don't believe Moses. You cannot wrap your mind around Moses. You've never heard Father's word. You do not see his form. You don't understand who I am. This is exactly what Saul was saying to us in Romans 10. So in lieu of all of this, what did they do? They created a man-made traditions and ceremonies and just a burden of religion, and used that and as their understanding of the scripture to attain right standing with Abba. This is what Ephesians 2 is talking about, that you cannot by works. It is not by works. It is by faith, which is what the Torah has always taught. It was never, ever supposed to be by works. But they made it that way. So Ephesians 2 isn't telling us something about us today. It's telling us something about what they were doing back then. This was the vehicle. This was the way that the Jews of that day thought they were to approach Elohim. And of course, we find out that that just is not so. All right. So again, these are familiar scriptures. I hope to most of us, these are familiar scriptures. If it's review, just bear with me. We're going to get into some neat stuff in a second. But, some people are watching. They may not realize this. Maybe you never heard this before. Maybe you've only heard that. Listen, it's by faith. It's not by works. So forget all that religious keeping of the commandment stuff. No. It's only part of the story, but we really need to have the whole story. So here is, I don't even know what number this is on the notes. Don't assume, right? Don't assume. You all know what the thing, you've probably all heard this before. Why you don't assume, right? You don't want to make a you-know-what out of you and me. Don't assume. But what has modern religion assumed today? What does modern religion assume? Number one assumption of modern religion is, since it's not by works, and in their mindset, in the modern religious mindset, when they hear works, they're thinking everything the Pharisees and Sadducees and Judaism does are the works of the Torah. And we just only looked at John 5. We only looked at Romans 10. We could probably spend the whole night looking at verses where Messiah calls them out for not understanding the Torah. So that's just two. But the modern religious way of thinking is that since it's not by works, which is exactly what Ephesians 2 says, and it does mean not by the works the Jews of that day have created, we think that's all that there is to works, that's the works that Father's talking about, and they're not. Since it's not by works, then we don't have to keep the Torah. The Torah is not for us. It doesn't apply to us. It's for a people of another day. Beloved, that is not only wrong, that is extremely dangerous to us. I believe it is a lie of the enemy, and we got to be really, really careful about this. So that's the number one assumption. It's not by works, so we don't have to do anything in the Torah. We don't have to keep anything in the Torah. The number two assumption in modern religion is that today, now I'm not talking about back in the Pharisaic day. I'm not even talking about modern Judaism. I'm not even probably even, maybe there's some messianic groups that can fall under this, but I'm talking about Hebrew roots. I'm talking about Torah keeping people. Of course there are congregations, there are people out there that just mimic Judaism. They believe in Messiah, but they just take Judaism on as a cloak. That's an issue. That's a problem. That we should not be doing. But so that happens, and so the modern religious world sort of lumps everybody into one whole set and says the modern assumption of religious assumption is that today the Hebrew roots, the Torah-keeping people, the people of the way, the followers of Yah, the Netzarim, I mean, there's all sorts of different names. There's no one set, group. Nobody's in charge of it. It's just sort of a movement of understanding and enlightenment that's sort of just going on all over the world. But the idea is that what all of those groups are doing is they are mimicking the era or the works of Judaism. And that's not true. That's not what we're doing anyway. Are there maybe some groups that are? Perhaps. But that's not what we're doing. It's not what I'm teaching. It's not what we're talking about. We're not supposed to mimic the errors of Judaism. We're not supposed to mimic the works of Judaism. But that doesn't mean we're not supposed to have works. That doesn't mean you don't pursue works. We just have to define what works really means as opposed to the definition the first century, and it wasn't the first century, it was way before the first century, but the definition Judaism has put on it and the definition modern Christianity has accepted of it, they are both in error. So works. What are works? Works are the keeping of the Torah, which means the instructions. The keeping of the Torah through the knowledge of Messiah. Remember, you can have a zeal, but if it's zeal without knowledge, then you come up with your own ways. So this is the keeping of the Torah through the knowledge of Messiah. This is what we have actually been made for. This is the purpose of the entire book. That's why he says, if you don't know Moses, then you don't know me. You don't understand the purpose of the book. Forgiveness, as given to us in the Torah, and of course in the New Testament writings, forgiveness is a gift. Obedience to the Torah through knowledge are true works. And the purpose of works and the gift are not the same. The gift is not earned. A gift is given. Father has given us something. He has given us right standing in him. He has forgiven us. He has washed our sin away. He has made us right before him. Fine, we're right. It's a gift. There's nothing I can do. There's no Jewish tradition. There's no Christian tradition. There's no Islamic tradition. There's no Buddhist tradition. There's no Hindu tradition. And you can name every other group out there. There's nothing I can do to earn Father's forgiveness. Somebody else did the work for that. So we've gotten that as a gift. But now that I got it, now that I have it, and there is life in front of me, our job, the thing we were created for, is obedience to the Torah, is obedience to Father's instruction through knowledge. And when you do that through the knowledge of Messiah, that's works. And those works, and I'm right here, guys, if you want to follow me, I'm just going to mark it in purple there, highlight it so you guys can see it. Just going to get rid of that. True works, PDP version, true works of the Torah show our love. And the way that the forgiven by grace, and here it is, we are to earn reward. Wait a minute. I thought this whole thing was a gift. No, your right standing is a gift. Your being made right before Father is a gift. The brushing away of all of your sin is a gift. Everything we do from that point on, we either earn something or we have something taken away. And the purpose is to earn reward or have reward taken away from us through either our obedience or our disobedience to Father's instruction, the Word, the Torah. The whole world has been forgiven. I know this is kind of a tough nut for a lot of people to sort of wrap around their mind. Father's forgiven all of Islam. Father has forgiven every Hindu. Father has forgiven every Shintoist. Father has forgiven every communist. Father has forgiven every Christian, every Westerner. Father has forgiven every Native American. He's forgiven every Polynesian. He's forgiven every South American. He's forgiven the entire continent of Africa. Father has forgiven the whole world. He has given the whole world the gift that if we repent and acknowledge it and understand that that gift is ours, then some stuff needs to be done. You ignore the gift, different story. So the whole world has been given a gift. But, here it is, guys. But the whole world does not obey the instruction, that is the Torah, which is the purpose of the gift. Here's John 3:16. Everybody knows it, but listen to these words. For Yah so loved the world that he gave a gift, his son, right? John 3:16. Who doesn't know this that has a Bible in their hands? You know, from Islam to Judaism, from Islam to Christianity, who doesn't know this verse? It's at every football game. Somebody's standing there with a big sign, John 3:16, or some guy's got it, in a football game's got it painted across his belly or something. John 3:16. The whole world knows this. For Yah so loved the world that he gave a gift, his only begotten son. Okay, we get that. That those that believe in him would not perish, but have everlasting life. But as you read on, just a couple of verses later, as he's still explaining the same thing about this gift that Father's given of forgiveness, verse 20 says, for everyone who is practicing evil matters. What does it mean to practice evil matters? Breaking the Torah. For everyone who continues to break the Torah despite the gift, hates the light, and does not come to the light, lest his lawless, PDP version, without understanding of the Torah works, should be exposed. But the one doing, that is the one obeying the commandments, obeying the instruction, obeying the Torah, the truth comes to the light, to the purpose of the Torah. Here it is, guys. Again, I put it in green here so that his works. Wait a minute. I thought it wasn't by works. Here it is. It's telling us works is a part of this thing. Yes, grace by faith is a part of this thing. Works is also a part of this thing. And what are works? Obedience in understanding or knowledge of what the Torah actually means. And its goal, which is the Messiah, are clearly seen, that they have been wrought in Elohim. So are we supposed to do works? And do we need works to be in the kingdom? Well, and then even more importantly, what about the thief on the cross? Because, I don't really, there's no record he did anything, at least not after he died outside of that. So what about that? Here is Ephesians 2:8 again, just to go ahead and show you that this is not weird. This is not out there. This is something I know a lot of modern religions just sort of skates right over. They don't see it, but until you have eyes to see it, you just don't have eyes to see it. So one more time, we read this before, Ephesians 2:8, for by favor or grace you have been saved, through belief, faith, understanding. And that not of yourselves. It is the gift of Elohim. John 3:16, he gave his son. He's the gift. It is not by works. It is not by the religious tradition of men, i.e. Judaism of its day, or any other religion and any other thing that goes on from that time forward. It is not by works, so that no one can boast, so that no one can say, Father, I stand righteous before you because I kept certain things. I kept the traditions of men. I did the things I was supposed to do. That's not how it works. That's not how it's ever worked. For we are his, meaning Father's workmanship, created in Messiah. Why are we created in Messiah, guys? Here, this is it. Why are we created in Messiah? To do good works. That is the purpose of coming to faith by grace, to do good works. And again, what does good works mean? It doesn't mean the whole religious tradition of burdens of whatever religion it is, i.e. Judaism of the first century. It means obedience to the Torah with knowledge of the instruction or who the Mashiach is, because then the whole Torah opens up to you and you realize what it's all about, which Elohim prepared beforehand. When did Father tell us about these works? At Mount Sinai, beforehand. At Mount Sinai is when he gave this stuff to Moses, that we should walk in them. So both are true at the same time. Yes, it is not by works of the traditions and religion of men that anyone can stand before Father. It is a gift. But once the gift is given, it is expected, it is demanded, it is required that you begin to work, that you begin to gain knowledge, that you begin to obey, that you begin, as it's not even that it's demanded, it is put in our hearts as a desire to want to do, so long as you've got life after that to do it. Here's the book of James, and it bothers me so much to call it James because it's really the book of Jacob or Yaakov. Here's James chapter 2 and verse 14. My brothers, what use is it for anyone to say that he has belief, faith, or even understanding, but does not have works, not the religious works, the obedience of the word, of the Torah, of the prophets? This belief is unable to save him. There it is. These are not my words, guys. I didn't write this. I didn't print this up. I didn't edit this. I copied and pasted, but I didn't edit this. These are the leader. This is the person, the Messiah, put in charge of this fledgling group called the followers of Yah, or the people of the way. This is the guy. And what is his brother? And what does his brother tell us? This belief is unable to save him alone. Meaning, to get you all the, and he'll explain it in just a second. And if a brother or sister is naked and in need of daily food, but one of you says to them, go in peace, be warmed, be filled, but you do not give them the bodily needs, what use is it? Well, where does all that stuff come from? To feed somebody, to do good to somebody? It comes right out of the Torah. That's doing Torah. That is what it means to do Torah. So also belief, that is the gift of the Messiah given by the Father, if it does not have obedience to what Father said in the Torah, as explained by the Messiah, works, is in itself dead. So, just by that definition, are works necessary? Absolutely. Absolutely. But we're going to define this a little bit more in just a second. But some might say, and here's sort of the argument that we've got, some might say, well, I have faith, like modern Christian theology, sola de fe. I've got faith. Others might say, well, I have works, Jewish theology, or even Islamic theology. I've got works. Jacob says, show me your belief, show me your faith in Messiah through the Father without your works, that is your obedience and understanding of the Torah through knowledge, and I will show you my faith, my understanding in Messiah and Yah by my obedience to Father's words or my works. So works are sort of the flip side of the coin of the gift that Father's given to us, but they are necessary. They are necessary for what? What do works actually get us? Well, if it doesn't get us right standing, because the works are not intended ever to get us right standing before Father, so then what are works actually for? Works are for reward. The gift is what is given. The rewards are what are earned. The gift you get by what Messiah has done, the rewards you get by what you have done. So all of a sudden now, wait a minute, this should hopefully start to make sense. If this never made sense to you before, hopefully it's making sense to you right now. The whole judgment is based on works. And I'm only going to pick one spot just for time tonight. Here's Matthew chapter 25, verse 14. The master's talking about the merchant who goes away and he gives his servants of his wealth to do some stuff with. For it is like a man going from home who called his own servants and delivered his, now I put the PDP there because we understand this is a parable telling us a spiritual reality. He delivered to his servants salvation. He delivered to his servants forgiveness. He delivered to his servants right standing. He gave them the one thing to start them off. It's a gift. They didn't earn it. He gave it to them. He delivered his possessions to them. It was a gift. Chapter 25, verse 16. I'm skipping a couple of verses just for time's sake. You can read the whole thing. It says, and he who had received 5 talents, so that was part of the gift, his understanding and obedience, he went and worked with them and made. And I put the PDP in there. What is this person doing? Is he just holding on to the gift, or is he earning something? Is he doing something? Well, here it is. He made. He went and worked with. He earned or worked another 5 talents. He added on to the knowledge and understanding that he originally had. In the same way, he with 2 also gained, earned, or worked 2 more. But he had received the 1, that is just the gift, forgiveness. We can call it salvation, but, we just heard what Jacob said about that. His right standing, what did he do with that? Well, he went away and he dug it into the ground. He did not earn. He did not work. He did not obey. And he hid the silver of his master. And after a long time, the master of those servants came and settled accounts with them. Skipping some verses, verse 24. And the one who had received the 1 talent also came and said, so the one that got 5 gets 5 more, the one that gets 2 gets 2 more. They earned on it, right? And then he gives them more, and he says, come enter into your rest, into your reward. Because they're going to get a reward now for what they've done. They earned rewards. They were given the initial talents. They were given the initial right standing, but they earned rewards. And the one who had received the 1 talent, verse 24, I'm right here, guys. I'm going to put that in purple so you can see it. I'll get rid of that in a second. And the one who had received the 1 talent also came to him and said, Master, I knew that you were a hard man, reaping where you had not sown and gathering where you had not scattered seed. And being afraid, I went and I hid your talent in the ground. See, you have what is yours. You got the gift. I'm going to give you a gift back. And his master answering said to him, you wicked. Here's the PDP. By wicked, it means lawless, without Torah. You wicked and lazy servant. You knew that I reap where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed. Then you should have put my silver with the bankers, and at my coming I would have received back my gift with interest, obedience. Therefore take away the talent, the right standing from him, and give it to him who possesses the 10 talents. For to everyone who possesses interest, works, knowledge, who has worked and earned something on what was given them, more shall be given, and he shall have overflowingly. But from him who does not possess, no interest, no works, no obedience, no instruction, don't have to do it, not for us. Even what he possesses, even what he believes, shall be taken away from him. That's a scary parable when you begin to understand its true meaning. Because again, we're just so used to the whole idea of, well, it's just believe, right? Just believe, that's it, and you're saved. That's not what the Master's saying here. That's not what John 3:16 through 20 says. That's not what Romans 10 says. That's not what Jacob chapter 2 says. It's not the story. It's a piece of the story out of context, but it's not the story. All right, so what does all of this have to do with the thief on the cross? Well, I want you to notice something in the story of the parable of the talents. The guy with 5, the guy with 2, with 5, and the guy with 1. When they are given the talent, there is evidently time in between the giving of the talent, that is the gift, and the time before the master comes. There is opportunity for them to gain interest. Okay, what does that mean? From the moment we begin to understand, this thing comes true. We truly do repent. Father's Spirit truly does dwell in us. We begin to, as we read things, truly do begin to understand. Yeah, we're supposed to do this and supposed to do that. And how do we do it? We got to understand how Messiah taught it and put it in perspective and do what. If you have time to do that, you must earn interest. You are expected to earn interest. We're all not going to earn the same interest, right? Some of us are just at different places. Some of us, are just, trucking along, and this is all just becoming, it's just all falling in place. And you're like, oh man, I never saw this, and it's just wonderful. Others of us, we're sort of struggling with it, but piece by piece by piece by piece, over the years, it's starting to make sense. Well, thank Yah, we've had years to do it. He's given us time to do it. The difference, guys, is the guy on the cross had no time. There was not a tomorrow for him. There was no next week. There was no, okay, now let me look at the whole Torah all over again in the light of Messiah. He had that moment. That was it. He had that moment. Here's Luke chapter 23, verse 42 and 43. It says, this is what I quoted before. He, the thief on the cross, says to Yahushua, Master, remember me when you come into your reign. Now, I'm going to split hairs here, and I don't have time to get into this tonight, but we'll get more into this next week. Notice what he asked him. Remember me when you come into your reign, meaning your kingdom. So in the Jewish mindset, or even based upon what we now know today, when is the Master's kingdom? At the first resurrection. That's when the kingdom starts, at the first resurrection. He knows he's going to die. He's asking him to remember me when you come into your kingdom, the resurrection. And he would have known the concept of the resurrection. The Jews knew it. Miriam knew it. Peter knew it. They all knew this concept of resurrection. She says to him, if you would have been here, my brother would have raised. He says, but I know that he'll raise on, he says, your brother's going to rise again. He says, I know he'll rise again on the last day at the resurrection. They knew about the resurrection. Whether the guy's a thief or not, he would have known this. He grew up in Israel. He would have known this. So he's asking, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Is the Master's response, when I come into my kingdom, I will raise you with me and you will be with me there? No, that's not what he said. I said, well, you're splitting hairs. No, I'm not. I'm actually reading what it says. What he did say was, and Yahushua said to him, truly, truly, I say to you today, you shall be with me in paradise. Now, you can look that up. Paradise it can be translated as garden. It is also a reference to Abraham's bosom, to the garden, to Sheol, to death. We'll get into this next week. We'll talk a little bit about Enoch and what Sheol is and what parts of Sheol there are, the place for the righteous dead, the place for the unrighteous dead, Abraham's bosom. All of that, we'll talk more about that next week. It's really integral to the story. Again, it's the question I think most people wind up asking, but let's deal with this question first. The Messiah did not say to him, you are going to be part of the first resurrection. What he told him was, today you will be with me in Sheol. Today we will be at Abraham's bosom. But he didn't say any more than that. He didn't tell him any more than that. So we can, and I'm obviously I'm not the judge. You're not the judge. Is this particular individual going to make the first resurrection or the second resurrection? I don't know. That's out of my purview. That's not. I don't get paid for that. It's above my pay grade. But I'm just telling you the way I'm reading it, that he didn't promise him that, even though that's what the man asked. He asked, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Messiah didn't promise that. He promised, today we will be in the garden together, in Sheol together. There is, so what does this man have? Well, he absolutely has repented, right? He says, listen, we're guilty here. As the other thief is making fun of him, we're guilty here, and he's innocent. And he acknowledges him by saying, when you come into your kingdom, he's acknowledging him as the Mashiach. He absolutely has evidence of accepting the gift. But what does he not have from this point on? Time. He doesn't have time. He doesn't have tomorrow. He doesn't have next week. He doesn't have the day after. He doesn't have next month. He doesn't have 5 years to figure this out. You do. We do, thank you. You and I have time. There's an expectation on us that was not on him. And so, what ability for works? Now you could say, well, he grew up Jewish and he probably kept the commandments and did all of those wonderful. Well, that's great, but we know that he probably kept the Jewish law, is probably a better way of saying it. We've already established keeping the Jewish law is not how you actually are made right before Yah. So was he made right before Yah? Yes. Will he see eternity? Yes, I believe he will. When? In the first resurrection or second resurrection? I don't know. I don't know. It's above my pay grade. But he didn't promise them the kingdom. He promised them paradise, garden, Sheol, Abraham's bosom. The wrong assumption to take on this, remember what assume means. The wrong assumption to take on this, and many, many people do, is we look at this not as the exception to the rule, but we look at this as the rule. And what people wind up saying inevitably, and I've heard people say this, I think it's crazy to even think this way. Well, yeah, I know I grew up religious and I know about him and, I know a little bit about the Bible, but I'm just going to live my life. I'm going to sow my wild oats. I'm going to do my craziness. I'm going to do all the stuff that I want to do and party and, do all of that stuff. And later on, when I get older, then I'll buckle down. I'll get serious with it. And you're driving one day and boom, somebody hits you in the side and you're gone. So, well, what happened to that guy? Well, he took his talent and he buried it. It's not the same thing that happened to the guy on the cross. The guy on the cross made confession. He knew he had no time to live. He made confession anyway. The master forgives him. He's got the talent and he's going to die with the gift. The other guy had the gift, but he did nothing with it. But what did he have? Time. He had time. Days, weeks, months, who knows? But he had time. He had time to gain interest. So I think it's very, very foolish, very, very dangerous for people to say, well, I'm going to wait till I'm on my deathbed. Guys, we have no idea what's going to happen on that day. We have no idea if all of a sudden, just 1 second, you're sitting there, next second, boom, you blink out and you're done. We have no idea. Don't wait. Don't gamble. Don't roll the eternal dice and say, well, yeah, I think I'm going to bet on this one. Lucky number 7. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Why would you do that? That's foolishness. That's absolute foolishness. So the difference here with the thief on the cross is he's got no time. The thief had no time for works, no time to understand the Torah in relationship to the Mashiach. He had nothing to build on it with, no jewels, no precious stones, no understanding of the obedience of the word according to the knowledge of the Messiah. And again, the key phrase here is he had no time, but he did believe. He did confess. And the master's words are, you will be with me in Sheol, in the garden, in death, in Abraham's bosom. Again, we'll talk more about all of that next week. Hopefully next week will clear some of that up. 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 10. Saul talks about the same thing. Saul says, according to the favor, the grace, the faith of Elohim, which was given to me as a wise master builder, I have laid the foundation. The foundation, of course, is the Mashiach. He is the goal of the Torah. And another person, this is what I did, he said. This is what I do, he's saying. Another person who believes builds on it, works of understanding the Torah and the prophets through the Mashiach. But each one should look to how he builds, how he earns talents. If we are being given the time to do it, you ought to look at how you build, how you earn talents onto it. For no one is able to lay any other foundation but the gift that's given to us through the Torah of the coming Son, except that which is laid, which is Yahushua Messiah. And if anyone builds on this foundation, builds what? Understanding, knowledge of the Torah and the prophets, and through love, obedience to the instruction. And how does he describe this? If anyone builds on this foundation with gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, straw, each one's what? Work. We've been created for works, which Father mentioned beforehand. That's the purpose. Each one's work shall be revealed, for the day shall show it, whether you've been given 1 talent, 2 talents, 5 talents, 10 talents, what you did with it. Because it will be revealed by fire, a naked judgment that burns up everything, no hiding from this. And the fire shall prove the work of each one, what sort it is, either works of obedience or works of disobedience or lawlessness. If anyone's work remains, which he has built on, he shall receive a reward. More talents, just like Matthew 25 told us. Listen to this, though. If anyone's work is burned up, if he had no time to work, like the thief on the cross, he shall suffer loss. Maybe not the first resurrection. Maybe no rewards. But he himself shall be saved. Written in the Lamb's book of life, but so as through fire. I think that's the guy on the cross. I think that's the difference here. Revelation 25, this is the white throne judgment, the end of everything, end of the millennial kingdom. Kingdom's done. It's going to be handed over to the Father. Judgment is being laid out. And Sheol is emptied out. Both the righteous part of Sheol and the unrighteous part of Sheol. And the rest of the dead did not come to life until the 1,000 years were ended. This is the first resurrection. That's us. Or pray. I hope and I pray it's us. Blessed and set apart is the one who has part in the first resurrection. First resurrection, I think, is for people, for those who have worked, who have had time to work, however little or more time we've had, but how we've built. But Revelation 20 says this. This is the last verse for today, guys. Revelation 20. And then I saw the dead, small and great, standing before the throne, and the books were open. This is after the kingdom, after the first resurrection. And another book was opened, which is the book of life, the Lamb's book of life. And the dead were judged from what was written in the books according to their works, what they did in their life, how they did it. And the sea gave up the dead who were in it, and death and Sheol, the grave and Sheol, paradise, Abraham's bosom, both parts, the part of light of Sheol, the part of darkness of Sheol, again, we'll talk more about this next week, gave up the dead who were in them, and they were judged, each one according to his works. And death and Sheol, the dark and the light part, or the dark part, were thrown into the lake of fire. This is the second death. And if anyone was not found written in the book of life, he was thrown into the lake of fire. So, what does that mean? There are going to be people on that day at the second resurrection who may not have had a lot of time, may not have had time to learn, time to understand. Maybe we're in a similar situation to that of the thief on the cross. That's not the rule. That's the exception to, you don't want to be there. But those people, there will be a lot of people who will be found written in the Lamb's book of life. And while they may not have tremendous reward and be kings and priests, they will live. They will live. So, what about the thief on the cross? He believed. In the time that he had, he believed. And the master told him, you're going to be in paradise with me. You're going to be in Sheol with me. What happens from there, guys? It's above our pay grade. We can only read the rest of the scripture and sort of theorize from there. But you and I, we're not facing death today. We're not facing death tomorrow. It's not imminent for us. For most of us that are just, alive today, we are expecting tomorrow. And if we are alive today, we are expected to gain interest, to learn something, to understand something, to expand the talents. And we will be judged on those talents. Not for the gift. The gift was free. But because the gift was free, we earned, we did, we worked out of love because of the gift that was given to us. So, what about the thief on the cross? Well, I guess one day we're going to see him. And then we can ask him and let him tell us what the deal is from there. But I hope this cleared up some questions for you. I know it probably brought up a whole bunch of other questions as well, but we'll talk about that, Sheol and all the rest of that stuff next week. And then we got another question for the week after that. Guys, if you got questions and stuff, shoot them out in the comments. I'll do my best to try to bring them up and sort of answer these things. Because if one person has a question, I'm sure there's other people that got questions too. And so we can do that for a while. We'll do that, in between our feast schedules, and we'll go from there. Guys, don't forget that this Friday night is at 7 p.m., not 7:30. And of course, Saturday on Shabbat will also be at our new time, 10:30 a.m. And don't forget to join us tomorrow morning at our morning manna. Guys, hit the subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed that message. Give us a like and certainly send this out to somebody. We'd appreciate it. Guys, have an awesome night out there. Yah bless and shalom.